Good evening. Today we have Anjali Gopalan of Naz, who I've known for a very long time, and she was the one who took up the case with me of 377. So we're going to talk to her this evening. Anjali, please tell us, how did you agree to take up the 377 case?
I think a couple of things happened that time. It was building up to it, and initially the resistance from the police for allowing our outreach workers from giving out condoms and talking about HIV. Then the consistent, and one thing that used to bother me a lot is the number of families that were coming in for counseling and saying, okay, we accept our son is gay, but tell him to get married and do the right thing by the family. Which to me said, look, something needs to change, otherwise nothing is going to change, right? Then the worst thing was this young boy who was given shock treatment to make him straight. I think that was the straw that broke the camel's back. So I think at that time our synergies matched. And if you remember, at that time we also tried to see if there were other gay groups, and that time there was just Humsafar Trust, would be willing, and Ashok actually said no.
Well, no, actually what happened was, if you remember correctly, that Ashok I had approached earlier,
right,
and Ashok wanted to do it, but we said because it is in Delhi, it is ideal that a Delhi group. But my question was that what we were talking about just now, how did you feel it necessary?
So I think these were the reasons that really made me feel that I've always believed that, and I come totally from the HIV prevention lens, and I've always felt that if you don't value yourself, you're not going to protect yourself. And for people who are gay and felt the pressure to get married, there was no way, there was absolutely no role models, there was no way for them to feel, if you're going to feel so bad about yourself, why would you even think of doing anything for yourself?
Well, exactly, because you were in HIV and I was too. And when we filed the petition, one of the major issues was HIV.
Yes.
And the government had two different affidavits.
Right.
One from the Ministry of Health and which supported us,
yes,
and Ministry of Home which actually opposed us. What was your view on that?
Which I found very weird, because to have the same government talk from two different sides was bizarre to me, right? And the fact did remain that no matter what, even with Section 377 in place, the government was funding programs which was dealing with men having sex with men. So to me, it really didn't make sense that they did what they did. And also the argument that they pose a threat to the security of the country makes no sense. So where does that come from?
But it was important that the Ministry of Health did support the petitioners and said that actually 377 is impeding all the
work that the government itself was involved in doing. And I think we were very lucky at that point to have someone like Sujata Rao, she's the one who took that stand and decided to do what she did, because previously that hadn't happened. So I think we were very lucky to have the right person at the right time at that point.
Also, I mean, people don't know the fact that in the HIV scenario, it is there we were able to raise these issues. And HIV was actually an umbrella issue where we were able to raise so many issues, whether it was sex workers, drug users, 377.
But let me tell you, HIV opened the door for us. Because think about it, I still get a lot of flack from many people who may not be aware of what the situation was then. People say, oh, but you should have spoken about rights. It's not right to have gone through the health angle. But I really want to make it clear that, look, given the environment at that time, it was very critical. If we had just jumped into it from the rights point of view, I don't know if we could have achieved what we did.
But HIV still remains an important issue even now.
Look, I think it's critical. Let's please understand this very clearly, that even though we think that we have turned the corner, I don't think we have. We are beginning to see a rise in the number of infections. We are seeing a lot of gay men who are getting infected. And these are new infections, which to me is an indication that if we are not careful, we are going to lose this battle again.
And actually criminalization through 377 impedes all those.
Of course.
So that it still remains an important issue.
Absolutely. And if you don't decriminalize, I don't think we're going to get anywhere. Yeah. That has to be the first step.
Yes. So, I mean, we did win a huge victory in the Delhi High Court.
2009.
2009. What were your feelings about it?
At that time, in 2009, I couldn't believe that we had won.
I was
remember
actually in Geneva.
You were in Geneva, and I was sitting in the court, and when I heard it, I remember turning to someone and say, oh, what does that mean? What does that mean? Because I really didn't want to believe that it meant what it meant, right? So it was clearly very exciting. And for the life of me, I would never have thought that the courts would have gone back on that. Because that judgment was such a brilliantly written judgment, and really situated so much in the Constitution.
What was your experience after 2009 working with gay men till the Supreme Court judgment?
The one thing that clearly happened for me, which was fantastic, is to see so many young people come out. I think that judgment opened the door for people to actually feel proud about who they were. Their sense of self, I think, really did. It was so much. There was such a difference in the way people were talking about themselves. And I think that created an environment where a stronger sense of community started getting built.
So this whole thing about what one thinks about oneself actually came to the fore in a positive sense.
In a very positive sense, and that's what we need for any progress to happen in our lives. Because our sexuality is so integral to who we are.
Yes. And what was your feeling? Did you expect the Supreme Court to set the clock back?
Look, I don't think anyone in their right minds could have thought that the Supreme Court would do what it did at that time. I was bereft, I was shocked, and that was just me. So I can well imagine what people who had come out or were thinking of coming out, what they must have gone through. Because there's nothing, you can't tell people one day that you acknowledge them for who they are and then tell them to go back into the closet, which is what you did by that Supreme Court judgment.
But in fact, did a lot of people go back to the closet?
No, of course not. Once you come out, you come out. How on God's earth are you going to go back?
But the new ones may not come out.
And my fear is of course, a lot of people will not come out because of the situation. And what is worse is that very often families hold this against who you are. Very often parents will say, okay, if you think that this is so normal and natural and I should accept this in my child, then why does the law see them as criminals? That's a constant refrain. And really, that is logical if you think about it.
Yes. Now, I think we can reasonably be confident that we expect the court to decide in our favor. What are your expectations?
Listen, I want to agree with you. And
you have doubts?
No. I don't have, I won't say I won't have doubts, but I'm scared. I'm scared because I never expected the 2013 judgment to happen either. So what I would say is, fingers are crossed. Hopefully, the sense is that we should get a good judgment. But let's just wait for that to happen.
Okay, assuming that we do win and they hold what the Delhi High Court had held, what do you think are the challenges? I've written about it today in our portal leaflet. I've just given a very brief thing. But what do you think are the challenges if we legalize same-sex relations or decriminalize them?
One is decriminalizing, but that doesn't even begin to touch the issue of rights. It's the rights that people take for granted in this country as citizens of this country. The right to marry, whoever even thinks about it.
So marriage is one. So I think marriage is one it's in the media term, but yes, equality is the pressing thing. Inheritance, in fact, is not so important as far as gay men are concerned, because they will get it anyway. There's no debarment. But transgenders is an issue. Transgenders, and what about the other thing about sexuality is decriminalized. But you have a rape law which is on men. It is men against women.
So listen, that's why it's so strange. I never thought I'd ever say this, but I would want to see 377 continue, because it's not only male to male rape, but it's also bestiality gets addressed in that law. So given those two things,
would you like to have a gender neutral rape
I
law?
would like to have a gender neutral
It is
rape
right
law.
now gender specific.
It is very, exactly.
The rapist is a man.
So what happens to men who get raped by other men?
Yes.
So I think that needs to, or transgenders if they get raped. But the point, and they do. It's a big issue in the community.
Even amongst the gay men.
Of course, amongst gay men, and there's nowhere for them to go to. So therefore, I think it's critical that that law becomes gender neutral, and we keep, till then, 377 remains.
So let's hope that we meet again after the 377 verdict in high spirit.
Yes, in very high spirits.
Thank you.